Hi, my name is Stephen Gauci and welcome back. In this video we'll continue to explore various permutations of the blues form. So in the previous video we explored this 12-bar form. Okay, so these are the changes we had in the first measure. We had the 1 chord, and then in the second measure we went up to the 4 chord. And then in the third measure we went back to the 1 chord, okay? And then we went a 2-5 in the fourth measure, 2-5 into the 4 chord in the fifth measure. And then we did the minor third, the minor 4 chord in the sixth measure. And then in the seventh measure and the eighth measure we did a 2-5 into the ninth measure, which is D minor, okay? And then in the D minor and in the ninth and the 10th measure we had a 2-5 into the C7, which happens in the 11th measure. So in the ninth measure we had D minor 7. In the 10th measure we have the 5 chord G7. Okay. Hey, listen. Please check out the PDFs for these videos. I've written it all out so that you can follow along when you're watching the videos. So please do that. It will make a lot more sense that way. Every single video has an accompanying PDF that goes along with it. Okay. You can find that actually at my website, skypelessons.gauchimusic.com, and there's a link to that at the end of this video. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to review briefly what we did in the previous video. Okay, so I'm just going to run the chord so you can get a sense of that form, and then you can see the contrast to what we're going to change this time around. Okay, so here's the 12-bar blues, and I'm just going to run the chords. I'm not going to improvise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's what we did in the last video, so you can check that out. Now, we're pretty much going to use the exact same chord changes this time around. We're going to change one little thing. Okay, so what we're going to change, so that the first 4 measures are going to be the same. So let's deal with that first. So we have the 1 chord in the first measure, and then the 4 chord in the second measure, and then the 1 chord in the fourth measure, and then we have 2-5 into the 4 chord in the fifth measure. Okay, so we have in the first measure. Here we go. Let's see. How about 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's my statement. The 1 chord is a statement chord. That's what 1 means. You make a statement. That's what it means. That's how it acts. Okay. If it acts in a different way, it's not a 1 chord. That's how we know it's a 1 chord. It acts like a 1 chord. Okay, so now, so we have a statement. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, wrong note. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I went 3, the E note and the C7 chord, right? I went 3 to 7, flat 7, B flat. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now the next measure, the second measure, is the Forecourt. Okay, it's an F7. And a Forecourt acts almost exactly like a 1 chord, really. Okay, it does the same thing. It makes a statement. Okay, and it's basically sort of a reflection of the 1 chord, but up a fourth. Okay, so we're going to just play the same thing we played on in the first measure, but we're going to play it up a fourth in the second measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so in the first measure, I went the third note, E natural, to the flat 7, B flat. Okay, and then in the second measure on the F7 chord, I went to the third note, A natural, and I went to the flat 7, E flat. Okay, and now in the third measure we're going to do the same thing. The third measure goes back down to the 1 chord, and we're going to make the same statement back down a fourth. Okay, so right from the beginning, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now the fourth measure, it's a 2-5 into the fifth measure. Okay, it's a 2-5 into the Forecourt in the fifth measure. So the Forecourt in the fifth measure is F7. Okay, F7 is the Forecourt. So 2-5 into F7, that would be a G minor 7 followed by a C7. Okay, G minor 7 is the 2 chord, and C7 is the 5 chord. Okay, now this is in the fourth measure. So 2 beats for G minor 7. Here's a G minor 7, next time G, and then B flat, and then D is the fifth note, and then F natural is the dominant 7. Okay, and then we have the 5 chord. Okay, the 5 chord, and that is a G7. I'm sorry, the 5 chord is a C7. Apologies. Okay, so C7 is C, low C, and then the third is E, and then the fifth is G, the fifth note, and then the flat 7, the dominant 7 is B flat. So the 2-5 is like this, and then it goes into the F7, the Forecourt in the fifth measure. Okay. Now, so let's start. Now, you know, the thing that's different about this fourth measure is for the first time in this form, for the first time, okay? We're moving forward now. It's not a statement about right here and now. Ba, ba. That's right now. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't want to go anywhere. It doesn't need to go anywhere. There's no anxious impulse to move around, okay? And then in the second measure we go up a fourth, ba, ba, right? That's not going anywhere either. It's just a very strong statement, right? And then we go down, back to the 1 chord in the third measure, ba, ba. Okay, now the fourth measure, a 2-5 doesn't act that way. That's not what a 2-5 does. It doesn't make a statement about itself. A 2-5 isn't not at all about itself in any way. A 2-5 is about what it's going to. That's what it's always about. It just wants to go somewhere. It wants to go to 1. Okay, 2-5, and then 1 comes. Okay, now so you know, let me see. So we're not going to do this kind of a statement thing where we go, you know, okay. What we're going to do is a line to put us over the bar measure going into the fifth measure, and we're going to resolve into the F7, which is actually in the fifth measure. That's the Forecourt, but it's functioning as a 1 chord at that particular moment, because a 2-5, the G minor 7 and C7 in the previous measure, it's a 2-5 it goes to 1. That's what 2-5 does. And in this case, F7, from the perspective of the previous measure, F7 is 1. It's acting like 1. That's what its function is at that moment. Okay? It's not going anywhere. It's there. It's a statement measure. Okay? So now let me see. So from the beginning, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So I went in the fourth measure, 2-5. Into the fifth measure, so I went on the first 2 beats is a G minor 7, the 2 chord. I went. Okay, so I just did a straight G minor chord. I went G, B flat, the 3rd, minor 3rd, G, the 5th, and F natural, the flat 7, the dominant 7. Okay, that's the first 2 beats. They're 8th notes. Then on the second 2 beats, the 3rd and 4th beat, on the C7 chord, which is the 5 chord, I went. So I went E, which is the 3rd, and then I went D flat, all open, which is the flat 9. Okay, and we can use flat 9s on 5 chords. Okay, now. In the blues form, C7, in this particular circumstance, in this place, it's functioning as a 5 chord, so we can use a flat 9. But in another part of the form, when the C7 is functioning as a 1 chord, even though it's still a C7 chord, it's a 1 chord, and a 1 chord, we cannot use the flat 9 in that measure. Or, for the most part. Again, these are all like, none of this stuff is the Word of God. It isn't. This is all like, this is man-made stuff, and we can change it, but most of the time, this is what makes the form. If we don't do this stuff, there's no form, there's no blues. Okay? So anyway, I'm just saying that on the 5 chord, we can use the flat 9. Okay? So I went the E, the 3rd on the C7 chord, then I went to the flat 9. That's a D flat, all open, and then I went to the C, the root. Okay, and then I went to the B flat, the flat 7. So the 2-5 all together, G minor 7, C7. Okay, and then that I'm on that B flat now. Okay, and then that leaves us on the 5th measure now. I'm on the 4 chord now, and it's the F7. So I let go of the B flat, and now I'm on A, the 3rd. And then I go down to the E flat, the flat 7, which is the statement again, right? The first measure is. And the second measure, we go up a 4th, the F7. Right, and the 3rd measure. Right, now we're going to skip over the 4th, and the 5th measure again on the 4 chord, on the F7, we again play that same statement, and it's down an octave. Okay, and the 4th measure, we go to it. Okay, so from the beginning, I'm going to take us up to that point. So we're going to stop right at the 6th measure. Okay, we're going to do the first 5 measures now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now in the 6th measure, we have, it's also the 4 chord, okay, but it's the minor 4. Okay, we did this already in the last video, but it's, we're not changing that this time. Okay, so in the 5th measure we have the 4 chord, the F7, And in the sixth measure, we have the minor 4, which is the F minor 7. Okay, so you know, in the fifth measure, here's the chord F7, and then in the sixth measure, we have F minor 7. Okay, now. So let's see. So here's from the fifth measure, right? From the forecourt. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you know it's that statement again. So I'm in the fifth measure, I'm on the F7 and I go A, E flat. So I go 3. A is the third note, and then I go E flat, the flat 7. Okay, and then in the sixth measure, we're on the F minor 7, and I go A flat. It's still 3, but it's the minor 3 now, so it's A flat. And then I still go to the E flat, the dominant 7. Okay, so it's the same statement over and over, but with slight permutations. Okay, now there's like a step down motion happening in the thirds. You have the A. In the first measure, in the fifth measure, there, and then you have the A flat in the sixth measure. Okay, so this downward step is happening now. Okay, it's a forward motion thing. Okay, so right. Okay, now the next measure we have a. Okay, now here's where we change things. From the previous permutation in the previous video, okay? So now, this is the seventh measure, okay? And the last time we worked on this, we in the seventh measure, we put E minor, we put a 2-5, we put the true chord being E minor 7 in the seventh measure, and then the 5 chord in the eighth measure is A7. And that goes to D minor in the ninth measure. Okay, the D minor in the ninth measure. Now what we're going to do this time is a permutation, or you can call it a substitution, on the 2-5 in the seventh and ninth measure on the the E minor 7. Okay, we're still going to do the E minor 7. In the eighth measure, so I'm going to start just running the chords for you on the from the forecourt in the fifth measure. Okay, so we have the F7, 2, 3, 4. Now in the sixth measure we have F minor 7, which is the minor 4. Now in the seventh measure we have E minor 7, which is a true chord. Okay. Okay, and now in the eighth measure, instead of going to A7 as the 5 chord, okay, we're going to substitute it for an E flat minor 7, okay, which is functioning in a way as the 5 chord. Okay, so. Let me see. So we have the E minor 7 in the seventh measure, and then we have E flat minor 7 in the eighth measure, and then it goes in the ninth measure to the D minor 7. So that's what it's resolving into. The E minor is a 2. It's functioning as a true chord in relationship to the D minor. It's the true chord in relationship to the D minor 7, which is in the ninth measure. Okay, so we're in the seventh measure. We have E minor, the true chord, and then in the eighth measure we go down to the E flat minor 7. Okay, which is a substitute for the A7, but they're both functioning whether it's A7 in the eighth measure or E flat minor 7, they still have to function as a 5 chord. They still have to move, they have to go into the D minor somehow, okay? Because that's the function. It doesn't matter if it's an A7 chord. That's why we can do substitutes. The reason why you can substitute one chord for another chord is because it doesn't matter what the chord is, as long as it performs the function, okay? And a 5 chord has to go into 1, okay? Now, you know, there's certain chords that do that more effectively than others. Certain chords create a stronger 5, a stronger resolution effect, okay? Than other ones do, okay? But you know, any chord we can function as a 5 chord, more or less, okay? Let me see. So now, so let's do it from the beginning one time. We'll recap it, and we're going to go up to this point. Okay, we're going to stop right at the end of the 8th measure. Okay, we're going to go right up through the 8th measure. Okay, so right from the beginning, we want 2, 3, 4. C-sharp didn't want to open it. No C-sharp. Okay. Anyway, so here's what I did. Okay, so I went from the 5th measure now, the F7, 3, 5, and then in the 6th measure, minor 7. That's a 3, minor 3, 5. Okay, it was the A flat, F minor 7 to minor 3 to flat 7, I'm sorry, okay, minor 3 to flat 7, okay, then in the 7th measure we have the E minor 7, which is functioning as a 2 chord, okay, and I'm just going to go, I'm just following the logic, okay, which is, now I have the 3 to the 7 again. I have the minor 3, the G natural, to the D natural, which is the flat 7 on the E minor chord. Okay, and then I do the exact same thing on the E flat minor 7 in the 8th measure, which is functioning as the 5 chord. I do the same thing. I go minor 3rd. I go the G flat. And then I go to the low D flat, or C sharp, the low D flat, which is the flat 7. Okay, so okay. Okay, so from the 5th measure again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Resolve. I have my I have the C sharp down, so I'm playing D flat. That's on the E flat minor 7 chord. I go G flat to D flat. Then I let go of the D flat, and it resolves into C, low C, and that is the flat, the dominant 7 on a D minor chord. And you know that 2/5 was resolving into the D minor 7 in the 9th measure. Okay, so that you know that. Okay, so that low C is this is the D minor chord. Okay, and the C is the flat 7, but we're resolving into a low C. Okay, but the important thing is that, you know, the 2/5 the 2/5 in the 7th and 8th measure, it resolves into the 1, or the minor 1 we can call it, which is in the ninth measure. Okay, that's the important thing. Now when we do this we do this thing where we have F, an F7 chord in the 5th measure. And then we have a different kind of F, an F minor 7, so it's kind of going down a half step in the middle on the 3rd. So we have in the F7 chord in the 5th measure we have an A. A is the 3rd note. Okay, and then in the next measure, in the 6th measure, on the F minor 7 chord, A flat is the 3rd note. And in the 7th measure, the E minor chord G is the 3rd note. And in the E flat minor 7 chord, G flat is the 3rd note. And of course, on the G minor 7 chord in the 9th measure, F is the 3rd note. So it creates this descending pattern all the way starting back in the 5th measure. So in a sense, we're really kind of 2/5ing starting in the 5th measure, and it's all leading up to that D minor in the 9th measure. We kind of start this waterfall effect, this cascade. Okay? That's what happens, right? Okay? So, okay, from the now we're going to take it all the way into the D minor, and we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so here's from the beginning. 2, 3, 4. It's very simple, really. So now in the so we went in the ninth measure, the D minor. We were on that low C. We resolved into the. Okay, so it's let me see. I'm going to start from the E minor 7 on the 7th measure. Okay, so 2, 3. So, 2, 3, 4. Now we're in the next measure, which is the 10th measure. It's the 5 chord. So D minor, the 9th measure. Okay, this is a little bit confusing, but stay with me here. Okay. So in the 9th measure, D minor. At the moment that we arrive there, it's functioning as a 1 chord, as the minor 1. Right? Because the 2 previous measures before it were 2 5s going to it. So on that first beat of D minor, it certainly is functioning, it's acting like a 1 chord. Okay? But as soon as that's over, and over means, you know, that phrase is finished. Okay? Okay, there was that silence, so. Okay, when that last note, that low C, that was the beginning of the D minor. 2, 3, 4, but I stopped, right? Right, there was a silence, a rest. That's the end of the phrase. Now, if I were to come back in on that G minor measure, we're not going to, but if I did come back in on D minor, it's the 2 chord now. It's not functioning as a 1 chord any longer. And 2, the way 2 acts is it goes into 5. Okay, and 5 is in the next measure. So D minor is in the 9th measure, it's the 2 chord. Even though it functioned right on that downbeat in the first beat as a 1 chord. It's really a 2 chord. Okay? And so 2, and then in the 10th measure we have 5, the G7. And then in the 11th measure, we have 1, which is the C7, okay? So I go, again, from the E minor 7 in the 7th measure. Okay, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay, so I went in the G minor. It's 2, 3, 4. Now we're in the G7, the 5-chord measure, the 10th measure. So it's 1, 2. I came in on the 3rd beat of the 5-chord of the G7. Okay, and I come in on an F note, which is the dominant 7, it's the flat 7 of the G7 chord. Okay, so I'm going to go from the E minor again. So 1, 2, the E minor in the 7th measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So I go on the 5 chord. Okay, on the 10th measure, the G7 chord, we rest the first 2 beats, 1, 2, and then on the 3rd beat it's F, and F is the flat 7, the dominant 7 of a G7 chord, F, and then I hit a low B, which is B is the 3rd note in the G7 chord, the 5 chord, okay, and the F is a quarter note, so it takes up the full 3rd beat, and then the low B is an 8th note, and then I go to a low B flat for the 4th beat, the upbeat, the last 8th note of the measure. Okay, it's a low B flat, and really that's tied over into the 11th, into the C7 chord, the 1 chord in the 11th measure, and it's the dominant 7 of the 1 chord, the low B flat. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just following this descending pattern. Okay, so because from the 5th measure now we went, that's the F7 chord, then we went F minor 7 in the 6th measure. Alright, then in the 7th measure, E minor. Okay, and then the 8th measure we did E flat minor 7. And then we slide right down to the low C, the dominant 7 on the 9th measure, the G minor 7 chord. 3, 4, now we're on the 10th measure, the 5 chord G7, and 1, 2, and then F, B. Okay, flat 7, and then the 3rd, the low B. Okay, and then it slides down into the low B flat, which is the dominant 7 in the 1 chord. Okay, so I'm going to play the entire thing one more time, and listen, I will write out this solo and post it as a PDF. So when you check out this video, please make sure to go to skypelessons.gauchimusic.com. There's a link at the end of this video, and download the PDF that goes along with this video, so you can follow along with the solo, and I'll make some notes and that kind of thing, to focus in on some of the things that we talked about. Okay, so let's see, right from the beginning, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's about it, and thanks for coming, and have a great day.